Hey, it's Matt with McGee Farms, and I've done a couple videos so far on spring maintenance with the Kubota BX tractor. It's one I primarily use as a mower for mowing the grass. And first one, we took the mower deck off. Second video, showed you where all the filters are, how to change the fluids. Now we're gonna work on the deck a little bit. I've taken it, I've kind of pressure washed the underneath to get all the excess grass that had built up on there. And if you've got another tractor with a loader, this is the easiest way to get to it. I have had to where one of the loader tractors, when I just had one, was broke down when I was doing this, and I used a boom on the 3-point of one of the other tractors, and it worked okay to pick it up as well. You just want to kind of make sure that it's where it's not going to fall on you. But to start out with, get you a good ratchet set. And you've got 3 blades. Each one has a bolt on it. I like to do them one at a time when I'm taking the blades off to sharpen them. Just that way I can always have reference to one of the others as far as which washer goes where if for some reason I forget. Now, I've got a new tool I'm going to use to try to get them off because these are a little tight. One of them in particular, I think the dealership, when I'd had maintenance done on it, when I first got it, I think they might have stripped it out a little bit. But I've got a tool I'm going to use, see if it helps out. In the past, I've had a 2x4 I've kind of put in there to block the blades from spinning. And it's even gotten to the point that I've had to, on the other side, take the guards off, take a rod, and actually shove a rod in there to keep the spindles from being able to spin. And hopefully it's not going to come to that. Also going to check the belt. The belt's looking a little worn. Most likely I'm going to go ahead and change the belt. Whenever I change a belt, I buy a new one. And that way, if I end up breaking one, or I'll try to use the old one as long as I can, just because I'm kind of cheap. But this one's looking like it's got some pretty good cracks, so most likely I'm probably going to go ahead and change that out. If I do, I'll go over how to change that. But let me get the tools out, and we'll start taking a blade off, show you how to take them off. Best way I found to sharpen them, and then to put them back on. All right, I was by Lowe's the other day, and I saw this and picked it up. It's a little tool that'll lock on the blade, and it'll lock the blade to the deck to keep the blade from moving. So I'm going to hook this up and see if this works. If it works, that'll make this a whole lot easier as far as getting these blades off. Okay, so I got it locked on, and actually the first one went really smooth. Got the big ratchet, got on there, and just 1 or 2 turns, and it came right off. Hopefully it'll go back on just as easy. Take the bolt out. You've got 2 washers. You got 3 washers. So I'll keep them kind of in place. You take the blade off. Now this blade, it's got rock chips on it. Not super bad, but just enough. I'm gonna get a file or an angle grinder or a bench grinder. I'm probably gonna go in, put this on my bench grinder, knock out the rock chips. Then I'm gonna start working on actually sharpening the blade. All right, so I've got it on the angle grinder, and I've kind of got it ground down. So the next step we're going to use is, I picked one of these up last year and tried it, and it did a pretty decent job on sharpening these, as long as you get those rock chips down first. And like I said, just a basic file, angle grinder, or a bench grinder, which is what I've used. Knock most of them down. It's not going to be perfect, but you know what? It cuts a yard good, so I really don't care. So you're going to put this on a drill. I'm just going to use my cordless because I don't feel like walking all the way down to the barn to get the corded drill. And Just took this in the drill, and it's pretty self-explanatory. It kind of has an angle in there with this. You get it at the angle, and you just go back and forth till you got a good edge on it, and then you go to the next blade. So I've got the blade on my vise, and it is locked down right now on my workbench that has way too many projects on it before you say it, I know. I'm working on getting to them. But pretty much, you're gonna run this just kind of back and forth. And just kind of use the plastic as a guide, and it'll put a pretty nice edge on there. All right, so we got it all sharpened up, and I'm getting ready to put it back together. Just basically a reverse of how I took it off. And then I'm gonna do the other two blades. One thing I am gonna do though, before I put it in, is I've got a thing of grease down here. And I'm gonna put a little bit of grease on this before I put it back in. Just basically to make it go in a little easier and make it come back off a little easier next time. So, washers, gonna get them lined up. See if I can do this one-handed. Oh, what do you know, I can. Get this kind of started a little bit. And then I'm just going to tighten it up with the ratchet, get it lined up and tightened. And that's all there really is to do. These had a decent edge on them from, well, guess it must have been from the angle grinder. I must have had the angle right, because it had a really good edge on it when I went to put the drill grinder on it. But yeah, should be mowing again this weekend, so it should cut perfectly. I'm going to put the rest of these on, then I'm going to flip it over, hit some grease points with a grease gun on the deck, go through the blade, see if the blade needs to be changed out, and clean all the grass and stuff off the upper part of the blade. And then after that, it'll be ready to reinstall. Okay, so I've got the blades back on. The first one I was doing that, I was showing how to take it off and put it on. I had it backwards putting on, so I did flip it around. So if you catch that, I did catch that as well. The deck, I took the guards off, kind of cleaned a lot of the grass off of it, and inspected the belt. Belt is, on this one, it's good and tight. It's got a couple spots I'm a little questionable about. I probably should just go ahead and change it, but it's getting a little later in the day today. I think I'm gonna take my chance. Most likely halfway through the summer, you'll see me making another video replacing the deck. 50-50, I might make it through the year, but it's good and tight. And I mowed last week and it mowed really good. So I'm gonna take a chance. I've got a replacement belt if I need to. It's just, they're kind of a pain to take off and replace. So anyway, this is done. I'm gonna put the guards back on, and then probably be tomorrow, I'm gonna slide this back under the mower, and it'll be good to go to start mowing again this weekend. Okay, so I've got all the blades sharpened, went through the belt, all the fluids on this have been changed. Everything's good to go. Now I just got to put it back together, which is the final step. I've got the tractor back in, I've got the mower deck next to it. When you bring the tractor deck in, you want to raise your lift all the way up, because it's got to be up to get it in. And we're going to put it back together just like we took it apart. Before I do it though, one thing that I am going to do that helps out a lot, I've got everything lined up. I got the front pieces there ready to go. I've got the PTO to put back together, but one thing that does help out is I'm going to put grease on this spindle where the PTO comes together really good. And if you notice, I've got a plastic bag from Harbor Freight, Walmart, Harbor Freight, any of those big box stores. I've got a tub of grease there, and surgical gloves are nice. I don't have any with me right now, so that's the next best thing. I'm going to use that. get a good little bit of grease on it, and I'm going to grease up this PTO yoke really good. That way it'll slide back and forth, and then when I go to take it back off, it makes it easy to take it off next time I've got to do some maintenance on this deck. So I'm going to put this PTO yoke back on, grease it up real good, and then I'm going to slide this deck underneath, and then, you know, like the earlier video where I was taking it off, everything's backwards. You're going to hook the back up first, and then you're going to hook the front up. Well, of course, the PTO is the first thing, but then, you know, as far as the mounting, it's going to be the two back ones. You're going to kind of have to maneuver it a little bit to get it going, and then the two front little pieces here. One thing to make sure you're doing whenever you start is make sure those pins are locked open, and they're going to try to pop and lock close on you. That's probably the biggest headache. It's not hard to fix. It's just a pain in the butt running back and forth. So I'm going to grease this up, and I'm going to toss this right back down underneath the tractor. All right, so I got the deck under there. I've got the PTO hooked up. I've got everything pretty much lined up where it needs to go. I do have me a hammer there. Sometimes you do have to tap it a little bit. But one important thing to remember when you're putting this back on is in the middle here, where you set the height of your deck, you want to take that down to 0. If you don't, the arms will not go down far enough to hook up to it. They'll stop just like a fraction of an inch. You'll be scratching your head. I do it pretty much every time. Even this time, it took me a second to realize what step I'd forgotten. But you always want to set that to 0, and then once you get it hooked up, you can set it back. I think I keep mine at like 2 1/4, height 2 1/2, something like that. So then you can set it back up. But right now I've got it lined up. I just basically need to drop it, set the pins, and put the front on. And don't forget, when you're putting your front little retainer clip, whatever you call this piece on, you do have a pin right here. Make sure that you've got your pin opened up so it'll go in there, and then just lock them all in place. And she's ready to go. I've just got to set my deck height. It's been about a week since I've been shooting these videos due to we had some pretty nasty weather come in, and just working around my work schedule where I had extra time to do it. But it's been a week. The grass is now getting to where it needs to be mowed again, so perfect timing. Friday afternoon, tomorrow morning, I'm going to get up early, and we're going to start out and do some mowing. Again, it's Matt with McGee Farms. If this video helped you out, if some of the others do, you enjoy them, please consider subscribing to our channel. Maybe leave us a like, a comment, or share it with your friends. It is all appreciated, and it helps the channel grow. Till next time, have a great day.